Here in recent news, there has been a sentencing of a former police officer, female police officer in Dallas, Texas, Amber Guyger. Amber Guyger murdered a black man from St. Lucia approximately a year ago in Dallas, Texas. It is alleged that she stayed in the same apartment complex as Gene, which is his last name. His name is Bolton Gene. Uh, she broke into his apartment, found him smoking marijuana, eating a bowl of ice cream in his underwear in his own home. She shot and killed him. All of the reasons or the potential reason behind how it all took place is not in question right now. You can do that on your own in terms of looking it up and doing the research and following the investigation and so forth. But the point is, she murdered an innocent man by violating his privacy, coming into his apartment, killing him. And a year later, 2019, the month of October, she is sentenced to 10 years in prison. This is a Caucasian woman, 31 years old. Jean was 26, an accountant from St. Lucia. And in the court sentencing, the brother of Botham forgave her, the police officer, former police officer. And he said that his wish was that she would turn her life over to Christ. And he also wished that she would not even have to go to prison, just simply turn her life over to Christ, and that he forgave her. He even asked the judge, which was Judge Tracy Kemp, a black or African American woman, if it was okay for him to hug Amber. The judge consented, and he proceeded to do so. And they hugged for a few minutes amidst Amber bursting out crying. And to our surprise, the judge began to tear up. And the judge came down from the bench and hugged Amber herself, giving her some words of consolation and even giving her a Bible. Can you say strange? When did this ever happen? When does this ever happen, where a sitting judge stands up, leaves their place on the bench, walks out into the area where the defense is and the prosecution and the plaintiffs, if you will, and hugs anyone? When does this happen? Can you say something's gone awry? The reason that judge came down is because that judge and that police officer are cut from the same cloth. They are part of the same system. Police officers are the strong arm of the judicial system. And a judge rarely, and I do mean rarely, and anyone that knows this for a fact can say also rarely, would a judge ever prosecute or have prosecute a police officer. It almost does not happen. And anyone that is a black individual in America or African American, we all know this to be true. So Judge Tracy Kemp should be ashamed of herself, because what she really did was show the system's true color. People of color are of no consequence to them. They don't care about people of color who get murdered by police officers, especially of the Caucasian type, even Latino. So my question is, since Tracy Kemp wanted to hug this former police officer who was found guilty of killing Botham Jean in cold blood, taking him away from his family forever, what happened to the judges hugging the family members of all of those innocent, unarmed, even many of them black folks that were killed by police officers, and 99% of the time the police officers were found not guilty? They walked. What happened to the judges in the case of Sam Dubose in Ohio? Did that judge hug his family? Did the judge hug Eric Garner's family after Eric Garner was choked to death by the police? What about the 12-year-old black kid in Cleveland, Ohio, 2016, Tamir Rice, shot in cold blood, mistaking a play gun in the park, minding his own business, shot and killed by the police? Did the judge in that case hug the family members of Tamir Rice? What about Alton Sterling? What about Philando Castile, who had a concealed carry and was asked by the cop to present it, and once he began to reach for his wallet, he was shot and killed in the car? Did the judge in that case hug his family? What about Mike Brown? Did the judge hug Mike Brown's family? What about Trayvon? Did the judge hug his family when Zimmerman killed him? Can you see a disparage of justice? Not to mention one other, Walter Scott, who was running away from a police officer, and the police officer steadied himself and fired 8 times, shooting and killing Walter Scott. Did that judge on that case hug his family? Is justice blind? Do they really care about us, people of color? Now, you could take it any way you want to, anyone watching this video. And I'm not racist. I love all people. But I do have a problem when the system doesn't love all people. That's where we draw the line. So, are the judges from this point forward going to take a page from Tammy Kemp's book and start hugging police officers when they shoot and kill an innocent individual from now on? And somebody out there might say, well, brother teacher, you only mentioning black people who were killed by the police. There was a young man who was killed by a white cop who was a white individual who was taken away from his family in a hotel. He was on his knees begging for his life in Arizona. You can look it up. He had 2 daughters and a wife. He was in his 20s. He had a business where he was killing pests with an air rifle. Someone saw him pointing the rifle out the window and they called the cops. They summoned him out into the hall of the hotel. His name was Schaefer, Daniel Shaver, white individual. So for those people who want to say, you're just talking about blacks, no, this was a white man, an innocent white man, having commands shouted at him: cross your legs at the ankles, crawl to me or I will shoot you. We will see that as a threat. When do you talk to people like this and you have 3 weapons trained on a individual on his knees, begging for his life, crying even, hands behind his back, then making him crawl up the hall, and you clearly have the advantage over him and you shoot and kill You murdered that poor man, taking him away from his family. Now, did the judge in that case hook Daniel Shaver's family? One thing Michael Jackson was really accurate, spot on about: they don't really care about us. This is Brother Teacher. What do you think?